How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, March 12th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite performances and matchups from yesterday, Thursday, March 11th, and of course, I'm going to review everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. With the NFL being completed until about September and the MLB waiting until next month to get started with its actual regular season, I'm going to get started with the NBA as we navigate through the world of sports just one day at a time. Of course, starting in the NBA, in Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets hosted the Detroit Pistons, and the Charlotte Hornets were able to pull off a 105-102 win after outscoring the Pistons by 8 points in the first quarter and basically carrying that momentum through the end of the game. For the Detroit Pistons in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Jeremy Grant, who finished with 32 points and 8 rebounds in 34 minutes as he shot 11 for 24 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. For the Charlotte Hornets in this matchup, their elite rookie starting point guard, LaMelo Ball, would finish with 7 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and 5 turnovers in 29 minutes, as Ball shot 3 for 11 from the field and 1 for 5 from 3 on the night. And of course, with this win, the Charlotte Hornets are officially sitting at 18-18. That is the 6th best record in the entire Eastern Conference. They are on a 2-game winning streak. They've won 6 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they are sitting half a game behind the 5th place Miami Heat, and they in the 7th place New York Knicks are now sitting a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Atlanta Hawks, 9th place Toronto Raptors, 10th place Indiana Pacers, and 11th place Chicago Bulls at the moment. And with this loss, the Detroit Pistons are now 10-27. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference. Currently, they sit 7 games out of the playoff picture as they have lost 8 of their last 10, and they've lost their last 2 games as a team. Jumping out to Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets hosted the Boston Celtics, and in this one, the Nets would beat the Celtics 121-109 after outscoring Boston by 9 in the second quarter, and the Celtics also got outscored by 10 points in the fourth quarter. For the Celtics in this matchup, their elite starting point guard, Kemba Walker, would finish with 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists in 34 minutes as he shot 5 for 12 from the field and 1 for 7 from 3. The leading scorer for the Boston Celtics would be their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum out of Duke, who finished with 31 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists in 36 minutes as he shot 13 for 22 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. For the Brooklyn Nets in this matchup, their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, would finish with 22 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, and 7 turnovers in 38 minutes as Harden shot 6 for 16 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. And the leading scorer for the Brooklyn Nets, and for the game for that matter, would be their elite starting point guard, Kyrie Irving, who finished with 40 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in 34 minutes, as Irving shot 15 for 23 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, and the Duke product would shoot a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 25-13. That is the 2nd best record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit half a game behind the first place Philadelphia 76ers in the playoff picture. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 9 of their last 10 as a team. And also in the playoff picture, they sit a game and a half ahead of the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks. I'm just looking out to where they sit in the Eastern Conference. And then with this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 19-18. That is tied with the Miami Heat for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 5 of their last 10 as a team. And in the playoff picture, they sit 4 games behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks. And they, in the Miami Heat, currently sit half a game ahead of the 6th place Charlotte Hornets and the 7th place New York Knicks. And with this loss, the Boston Celtics now sit 6 full games behind the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers. Jumping out to Tampa Bay, the Toronto Raptors hosted the Atlanta Hawks, and in this matchup, the Hawks would beat the Raptors 121-120 after outscoring Toronto by 11 points in the fourth quarter and able to pull off their 17th win of the season, and now they're back into the playoff picture. For the Toronto Raptors in this matchup, Off the bench, their power forward, Chris Boucher, would finish with 29 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. In 30 minutes, as Boucher shot 10 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the line. Their elite starting point guard, Kyle Lowry, would finish with 17 points, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, and 9 turnovers in 39 minutes, as Lowry shot 5 for 17 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. And the leading scorer for the Toronto Raptors would be their starting shooting guard, Norman Powell, who finished with 33 points in 39 minutes, shooting 11 for 20 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the foul line. For the Atlanta Hawks, off the bench, their power forward, Danilo Gallinari, would finish with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 29 minutes, as he shot 6 for 10 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Atlanta Hawks would be their elite starting point guard out of Oklahoma, Trae Young, who finished with 37 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 turnovers in 37 minutes, as Young shot 11 for 24 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 13 for 16 from the foul line. With this win, both teams are now 17-20. The Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors, are currently tied for the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. The Atlanta Hawks, on one hand, they've won their last 3 games and 6 of their last 10, and I think they have not lost since Nate McMillan has taken over for head coach over for Lloyd Pierce. And then with this loss, the Raptors have now lost their last 3, as they've lost 5 of their last 10. Both of these teams are sitting at 8 and 9 in the East. They both sit a game and a half behind the 6th place Charlotte Hornets and the 7th place New York Knicks, and they both are tied they both sit with 1 win and 1 loss more than the 10th place Indiana Pacers and the 11th place Chicago Bulls, to give you a sense of how close the Eastern Conference is. Jumping out to Miami, the Miami Heat hosted their in-state rivals, the Orlando Magic, and the Heat were able to pull off a 111-103 win after outscoring Orlando by 8 points in the fourth quarter, after going into the quarter completely tied. For the Orlando Magic in this matchup, their starting small forward, Dwayne Bacon out of Florida State, would finish with 21 points in 32 minutes, shooting 6 for 15 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the line. The leading scorer for the Orlando Magic would be their 2-time All-Star center, Nikola Vucevic, who finished with 24 points and 17 rebounds in 34 minutes, as Vucevic shot 10 for 20 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. For the Miami Heat in this matchup, their starting power forward, Kelly Olynyk, would finish with 20 points and 7 rebounds, as well as 2 steals in 35 minutes, as Olynyk shot 7 for 14 from the field, 4 for 8 from the three-point line, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Miami Heat would be their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, who finished with 27 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, and 3 steals in 36 minutes, as Butler shot 9 for 17 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and 8 for 13 from the foul line. With this win, the Miami Heat are 19-18. They are tied with the Boston Celtics for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. In the playoff picture, both of these teams now sit 4 games behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks, and they sit half a game ahead of the 6th place Charlotte Hornets and the 7th place New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference. As the Miami Heat individually, they've won their last 2 games and they've won 8 of their last 10. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 13-24. That is the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They currently sit 4 games out of the playoff picture, as they've lost their last 6 games and 7 of their last 10, as they sit 12 full games behind the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference. Speaking of the Philadelphia 76ers, they went to Chicago and were able to pull off a 127-105 win in Chicago after outscoring the Bulls by 15 points in the second half. For the Chicago Bulls in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting power forward out of Arizona, Lauri Markkanen, who finished with 23 points in 28 minutes, shooting 8 for 11 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the three-point line. For the Philadelphia 76ers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting power forward, Tobias Harris, who finished with 24 points in 25 minutes, shooting 8 for 15 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 25-12. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference as they sit half a game ahead of the second place Brooklyn Nets in the playoff picture. The Sixers have won their last 3 games and they've won 7 of their last 10 as a team. And with this loss, the Chicago Bulls are now 16-19. That ties them with the Indiana Pacers for the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference as they sit 1 win and 1 loss less, or 1 win and 1 loss less than the 8th place Atlanta Hawks and the 9th place Toronto Raptors. So they are 0 games behind the Atlanta Hawks for the playoff picture, but they're on the outside just looking in. And then with this loss, the Bulls they've still lost 4 of their last 10 as a team, and they sit 8 full games behind the first place Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks hosted the New York Knicks, and in this game, the Bucks would beat the Knicks 134-101 after outscoring the Knicks by 14 in the fourth quarter, and they also outscored the Knicks by 12 in the second quarter. For the New York Knicks in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Duke, R.J. Barrett, who would finish with 22 points and 5 rebounds in 29 minutes, as Barrett shot 9 for 15 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. And for the Milwaukee Bucks in this matchup, off the bench, their shooting guard Bryn Forbes would finish with 21 points in 18 minutes, shooting 7 for 9 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the three-point line. And the leading scorer for the Milwaukee Bucks would be their elite starting power forward, the reigning back-to-back MVP and the reigning NBA Defensive Player of the Year, and the reigning NBA All-Star Game MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, who would finish with 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in 29 minutes, as he shot 8 for 12 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, and 7 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 23-14. That is the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference. In the playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the second place Brooklyn Nets, and they also sit 4 games ahead of the 4th place Boston Celtics and the 5th place Miami Heat, as the Milwaukee Bucks have won their last 2 games and they've won 7 of their last 10. And then with this loss, the New York Knicks are now 19-19 as they sport the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. In the playoff picture, they and the Charlotte Hornets are sitting half a game behind the 4th place Boston Celtics and the 5th place Miami Heat. And they are also sitting a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Atlanta Hawks, the 9th place Toronto Raptors, the 10th place Indiana Pacers, and the 11th place Chicago Bulls. To give a sense of where the Knicks are, as they've lost 4 of their last 10 with this loss here. Jumping out to New Orleans, the New Orleans Pelicans hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves were able to pull off a 135-105 win after outscoring the Pelicans by, 23 total points in the second half alone, and they also outscored New Orleans by 14 points in the second quarter. For the New Orleans Pelicans in this matchup, their elite starting small forward, Brandon Ingram out of Duke, would finish with 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in 28 minutes as he shot 5 for 14 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. And the leading scorer for the Pelicans would be their elite starting power forward out of Duke, Zion Williamson, who finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in 31 minutes as he shot 9 for 13 from the field and 6 for 11 from the foul line. For the Minnesota Timberwolves in this matchup, their power forward off the bench, Jaden McDaniels, would finish with 20 points, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 26 minutes as he shot 8 for 9 from the field, 4 for 5 from the three-point line as well. Their starting small forward and their number 1 overall pick, Anthony Edwards, would finish with 27 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals, leading all starters in scoring as he played 37 minutes. He shot 10 for 22 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns, would finish with 16 points and 7 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 29 minutes, as he shot 7 for 19 from the field and 2 for 10 from 3. And the leading scorer for the Minnesota Timberwolves would end up being their shooting guard off the bench, Jalen Noel, who would finish with 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 11 for 13 from the field and 6 for 7 from 3 on the night. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 8-29. They still sport the worst record in the NBA, as they are the only team in the NBA with a single-digit amount of wins still. They currently sit 11.5 games out of the playoff picture behind the 8th place Dallas Mavericks. They've lost 9 of their last 10, and they currently sit 19.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz. And with this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are now 15-22. They are tied with the Sacramento Kings for the third worst record in the Western Conference, as they sit 4.5 games out of the playoff picture. The Pelicans have lost 7 of their last 10, and they've lost their last 3 games as a team. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Thunder hosted the Dallas Mavericks, and the Thunder would beat the Mavericks 116-108 after outscoring Dallas by 16 points in the first quarter and carrying that momentum through the end of the game. For the Dallas Mavericks in this matchup, off the bench, their small forward Tim Hardaway Jr. would finish with 24 points and 6 rebounds in 33 minutes, as he shot 7 for 18 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 6 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Jalen Brunson, out of Villanova, would finish with 26 points in 36 minutes, shooting 9 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 10 from the foul line. And then their wing, Josh Richardson, would finish with the team high in points, as he finished with 27 points and 6 assists, as well as 2 blocks in 35 minutes, as he shot 10 for 15 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. For the Oklahoma City Thunder in this matchup, their starting center Al Horford would finish with 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 28 minutes, as he shot 8 for 15 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and 1 for 1 from the foul line. And the leading scorer for the Oklahoma City Thunder would be their starting shooting guard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who finished with 32 points and 6 assists in 33 minutes, as he shot 11 for 22 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 16-21. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They currently sit 3.5 games out of the playoff picture behind the Dallas Mavericks. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10, as they sit 11.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the playoff picture. With this loss, the Dallas Mavericks are 19-17. They have the 8th best record in the Western Conference playoff picture. They sit half a game behind the 7th place San Antonio Spurs, and they sit half a game ahead of the Memphis Grizzlies in the Western Conference playoff picture as it stands. And they've won 7 of their last 10 as a team, to give a sense of where the Mavericks stand this season. Jumping out to Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Clippers hosted the Golden State Warriors, and in this matchup, the Clippers would beat the Warriors 130-104 after outscoring the Warriors by 20 points in the third quarter, and they outscored them by 14 points in the second. For the Golden State Warriors in this matchup, their goated starting point guard Stephen Curry would finish with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 27 minutes, as he shot 6 for 16 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. And they had 2 players that tied for the team high in points. And their starting shooting guard, Kelly Oubre Jr., would finish with 15 points and 6 rebounds in 32 minutes, as he shot 7 for 14 from the field. And then their starting small forward out of Kansas, the former number 1 overall pick, Andrew Wiggins, would finish with 15 points and 8 rebounds in 29 minutes, as he shot 5 for 12 from the field, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. For the Los Angeles Clippers in this matchup, their elite starting shooting guard, Paul George, would finish with 17 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals in 27 minutes, as George shot 5 for 14 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Los Angeles Clippers would be their goated starting small forward, Kawhi Leonard, who finished with 28 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals in 31 minutes, as Kawhi Leonard shot 10 for 17 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the LA Clippers are now 25-14. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference. In the playoff picture, they sit 0 games behind the defending champions, Los Angeles Lakers, and both those teams sit 1.5 games behind the 2nd place Phoenix Suns. Both these teams also sit 2.5 games ahead of the 5th place Denver Nuggets, currently sitting there. And with this win, the Clippers have won 4 of their last 10, as they sit 3.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz. With this loss, the Golden State Warriors are now 19-19. They hold the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They now sit a game behind the 8th place Dallas Mavericks in the playoff picture, as they have now lost their last 4 games. They've lost 6 of their last 10. and they currently sit 9 full games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the Western Conference playoff picture. Jumping out to Portland, the Portland Trailblazers hosted the Phoenix Suns, and in this matchup, the Suns would beat the Trailblazers 127-121, especially after outscoring Portland by 10 points in the fourth quarter. And the Phoenix would pull off after outscoring them by 10 points in the fourth, they'd pull off the 6-point win to pick up their 25th of the season. For the Portland Trailblazers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard, who finished with 30 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 37 minutes as he shot 10 for 23 from the field, 5 for 12 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. And for the Phoenix Suns in this matchup, their elite starting point guard, Chris Paul, would finish with 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists in 32 minutes as he shot 7 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. And the leading scorer for the Phoenix Suns would be their elite starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Devin Booker, who finished with 35 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 turnovers in 36 minutes as he shot 12 for 21 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the line. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 25-11. That is the second best record in the Western Conference. In the playoff picture, they sit 2 games behind the first place Utah Jazz, and they sit a game and a half ahead of the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers, as well as the Suns have won their last 5 games. They've won 8 of their last 10 as a team. And with this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are now 21-15. They are tied with the Denver Nuggets for the 5th best record in the Western Conference. In the playoff picture, both these teams sit 2.5 games behind the 3rd place Los Angeles Lakers and the 4th place Los Angeles Clippers, as they both also sit a game and a half ahead of the 7th place San Antonio Spurs. And with this loss, they've now lost 5 of their last 10 as a team, just to give a sense of where the Trailblazers sit, as they sit 6 full games behind the Utah Jazz in the Western Conference. And last but not least, jumping to Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings hosted the Houston Rockets, and the Kings were able to beat the Rockets 125-105 after outscoring Houston by 12 points in the second quarter, carrying that momentum through the end of the game and picking up their 15th win of the season. For the Houston Rockets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, Victor Oladipo, who finished with 23 points and 9 assists in 34 minutes, as Oladipo shot 7 for 21 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line. For the Sacramento Kings in this matchup, they had 4 players that scored at least 20 points, starting off with their starting small forward, Harrison Barnes, would finish with 20 points and 11 rebounds in 31 minutes as he shot 8 for 15 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting center, Richaun Holmes, would finish with 20 points and 11 rebounds as well in 35 minutes as he shot 9 for 11 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Buddy Hield, would finish with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists, as well as 2 steals in 38 minutes as he shot 7 for 19 from the field, 5 for 13 from 3, and 1 for 1 from the foul line. They had 3 players with 20 points, and their leading scorer for the night and the leading scorer for the game would be their starting point guard, De'Aaron Fox, who finished with 30 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 34 minutes as he shot 11 for 19 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. As the Kings' top 4 players would end up with a combined 90 of the 125 points. The Kings would pick up their 15th win of the season. With this win, they are now 15-22. Looking out west, they currently sport the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference alongside the New Orleans Pelicans. They have lost 7 of their last 10 as a team, and they currently sit 4.5 games out of the playoff picture behind the 8th place Dallas Mavericks, and they currently sit 12.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz as it currently stands. And with this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 11-24. They currently sport the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference, as they currently sit 7.5 games behind the 8th place Dallas Mavericks in the NBA. They are holding on to the NBA's worst streak as they have lost their last 14 games, and they are now 15.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz as it currently stands, as the last time they won a game, they were in playoff contention. So that's everything those are all the games that happened in the NBA yesterday. Looking forward to what's going on today, especially especially at prime time. At 8 o'clock, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to host the Denver Nuggets on NBA TV. And at 10:30, the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers will host the Indiana Pacers on NBA TV at 10:30. At 8 o'clock, the Washington Wizards will host the Philadelphia 76ers. At 8 o'clock as well, the New Orleans Pelicans will host the Cleveland Cavaliers. At 9 o'clock, the Chicago Bulls will host the Miami Heat. Then the San Antonio Spurs will host the Orlando Magic. At 10 o'clock, last but not least, the Western Conference leading Utah Jazz will host the Houston Rockets. So those will be the big games to look forward to, especially in the NBA, as the NBA continues on. Looking out to what's going on with college basketball, just going down the list in terms of rankings. First off, Florida State was supposed to face off against Duke, and Duke's season will be completed because one of their players tested positive for COVID-19. But I guess unlike many teams, they will finish their season on a win. So now going down the list in order of ranked teams, second place Baylor hosted unranked Kansas State, and the Baylor Bears were able to pull off a 74-68 win over Kansas State, with the 6-point win led by Makio Teagues, 24 points. And with this win in the quarterfinal, Baylor is now 22-1 on the season as Kansas State drops to 9-20. Also, 9th-ranked Ohio State hosted unranked Minnesota, and in this game, the 9th-ranked Buckeyes were able to beat the Gophers 79-75 behind Dwayne Washington, 16 points. With this win, 9th-ranked Ohio State is 19-8 as they move on past the second round of the Big Ten tournament, and with this loss, unranked Minnesota will be 14-5 as they do not continue on. Also, 10th-ranked West Virginia hosted 12th-ranked Oklahoma State for the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 championship, and in this matchup, Oklahoma State would pull off the 72-69 win behind Cade Cunningham, 17 points and 8 rebounds. With this win, 12th-ranked Oklahoma State is now 19-7 as they advance to the semifinals, and with this loss, 10th-ranked West Virginia is 18-9 as their journey stops here at the quarterfinal. 11th-ranked Kansas hosted 25th-ranked Oklahoma, and in this matchup, the Jayhawks would beat the Sooners 69-62 to advance to the semifinals as well, behind Ochai Agbaji's 26 points. With this win, 11th-ranked Kansas is 20-8, and with this loss, 25th-ranked Oklahoma is 15-10. Also, 13th-ranked Texas hosted 20th-ranked Texas Tech, and in this game, the Longhorns would beat the Red Raiders 67-66 behind Jericho Sims' 10 points and 11 rebounds. With this win, 13th-ranked Texas is 18-7, and they advance to the semifinal. And with this loss, 20th-ranked Texas Tech is 17-10, and they will stay put. Also, 14th-ranked Villanova hosted unranked Georgetown in the Big East quarterfinal, and in this game, unranked Georgetown will pull off the 72-71 upset behind Dante Harris's 18 points and 5 assists. With this win, unranked Georgetown is 11-2, and they will advance to the semifinal of the Big East tournament. And with this loss, 14th-ranked Villanova is 16-6 as their journey stops here. 16th-ranked Virginia hosted unranked Syracuse, and in this game, the Cavaliers were able to pull off a 72-69 win behind Jay Huff's 13 points and 12 rebounds. With this win, 16th-ranked Virginia is 18-6. As they advance to the ACC semifinal, and with this loss, Syracuse is 16-9 as they are 9-7 as they finish the season 9-7 in the ACC. Also, 17th-ranked Creighton hosted unranked Butler, and in this game, the Blue Jays would beat the Bulldogs 87-56 to advance to the Big East semifinal behind Marcus Zagorowski's 18 points and 5 assists. With this win, 17th-ranked Creighton is now 19-7, and with this loss, unranked Butler is 10-15. Also, 19th-ranked San Diego State beat unranked Wyoming 69-65 to advance to the Mountain West semifinal behind Terrell Gomez's 20 points. With this win, 19th-ranked San Diego State is 21-4 on the season, as unranked Wyoming is now 14-11 on the season. Also, 22nd-ranked Virginia Tech hosted unranked University of North Carolina, and in this game, the Tar Heels would beat the Hokies 81-73 behind Armando Bacot's 17 points and 13 rebounds. And with this win, unranked North Carolina is 18-9 as they will advance to the ACC semifinal. And with this loss, 22nd ranked Virginia Tech is now 15-6. Jumping out to 23rd ranked Colorado, they hosted unranked Cal, and the Buffaloes were able to beat the Bears 61-58. Behind Evan Batty's 15 points and 5 rebounds. With this win, 23rd ranked Colorado is 21-7 as they will advance to the Pac-12 semifinal. And with this loss, unranked Cal is 9-20 as their journey will stop here. And last but not least, 24th ranked USC hosted unranked Utah, and in this game, the Trojans would beat the Utes 91-85 in double overtime behind Evan Mobley's 26 points and 9 rebounds. With this win, 24th ranked USC is 22-6 as they are now as they will advance now to the Pac-12 semifinals. And with this loss, unranked Utah is 12-13 as their journey stops here at the quarterfinals. Those are the big games from yesterday. Looking forward to what's going on today on March 12th at 11:30. 4th ranked Michigan will host unranked Maryland for the Big Ten quarterfinal on Big Ten Network. At noon, 6th ranked Alabama will host unranked Mississippi State on ESPN for the SEC Men's Tournament quarterfinal. At 2 o'clock, 20th ranked Purdue will host 9th ranked Ohio State on Big Ten Network for a Big Ten quarterfinal game. At 6:30, 2nd ranked Baylor will host 12th ranked Oklahoma State on ESPN for a Big 12 championship semifinal. At 6:30, 3rd ranked Illinois will host unranked Rutgers on Big Ten Network for the Big Ten quarterfinal. At 6:30, 16th ranked Virginia will host unranked Georgia Tech on ESPN2 for the ACC semifinal. At 7 o'clock, 7th ranked Houston will host unranked Tulane on ESPNU for the AAC championship quarterfinal. At 7 o'clock, 8th ranked Arkansas will host unranked Missouri on SEC Network for the SEC quarterfinal. At 9 o'clock, 15th ranked Florida State will host unranked North Carolina on ESPN for the ACC semifinal. At 9 o'clock, 17th ranked Creighton will host unranked UConn on FS1 for the Big East semifinal. And at the same time, 5th ranked Iowa will host unranked Wisconsin on Big Ten Network at 9 o'clock for a Big Ten quarterfinal. At 9:30, 11th ranked Kansas will host 13th ranked Texas on ESPN2 for the Big 12 championship semifinal. At 9:30, 19th ranked San Diego State will host unranked Nevada on CBS Sports Network for the Mountain West semifinal. And at 11:30, 24th ranked USC will host 23rd ranked Colorado on ESPN for the Pac-12 semifinal. So that's everything that's going on with basketball. Taking a really quick look as to what's going on with the NHL. And just to give a little bit of background, the teams have to play within their own division in order to kind of limit traveling. Starting off in Canada, the Toronto Maple Leafs were able to beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in overtime. Their center, Austin Matthews, led the way for Toronto with a goal and an assist. Ehlers, the left winger for Winnipeg, would finish with 2 goals himself. And with their 19th win of the season, the Toronto Maple Leafs are now sitting with the best record in the North Division as they are sitting 6 points ahead of the second place Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers as it just so happens to stand. And jumping out to Calgary, the Calgary Flames were able to beat the Montreal Canadiens 2-0 after both of their goals were scored in the second period from Lavo, and then both assists would come from their center, Ryan. And with their 12th win of the season, the Calgary Flames are currently sitting 5th in the North Division as they trail the first-place Maple Leafs by a total of 13 points after playing one less game so far in the season. Jumping out to the East, the Boston Bruins hosted the New York Rangers, and the Bruins were able to come away with a 4-point win after picking their 14th win of the season up. They are now sitting 4th in the East Division as they sit 6 points behind the New York Islanders in the table despite having played 3 less games this season. Jumping out to Buffalo, the Sabres hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins, and in this game, the Penguins would win 5-2 to pick up their 16th win of the season. With this win, the Pittsburgh Penguins are now sitting 3rd in the table as they sit 5 points behind the first place New York Islanders, as the Penguins are now on a 4-game winning streak. And they've also played 1 less game than the Islanders at the very moment. Jumping out to New York, the Islanders were able to beat the New Jersey Devils 5-3 as they scored 2 goals in the first and second period, picking up their 17th win of the season. They now sit 2 points ahead of the second place Washington Capitals with 1 game played, as the Islanders are now on a 7-game win streak as a club. And then jumping out so those are the big games. And then jumping out to Philly, the Flyers hosted the Washington Capitals. The Capitals were able to pick up a 5-3 win and picking up their 16th win of the season. The Capitals now sit second in the table as they now trail the Islanders by 2 points in the table with one less game played, as the Capitals are currently on a 3-game winning streak. Jumping out to Charlotte, the Carolina Hurricanes hosted the Nashville Predators, and the Hurricanes were able to beat the Predators 5-1. 3 of their goals came in the first period. Their center Geeky would finish with 2 goals himself. With their 19th win of the season, the Carolina Hurricanes are now sitting at the top of the Central Division. With their 7-game win streak, they now sit 1 point over the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers at this very moment, as they played one more game than the Panthers at the moment. Speaking of the Panthers went to Columbus and were able to beat the Blue Jackets 5-4 in overtime. Their right winger Bjorkstrand would finish with 2 goals and an assist himself. With their 17th win of the season, the Panthers are now tied with the Lightning for the second best standing in the Central, as they both sit 1 point behind the Hurricanes, as the Panthers have played one more game than the Lightning, so they're now sitting third in the table. Jumping out to Detroit, the Red Wings were able to beat the Lightning. They beat them 6-4. The right winger Mantha would finish with a goal and 2 assists, and after picking up their 8th win of the season, the Detroit Red Wings are sitting at the very bottom of the Central Division, as they have played 2 more games than the first place Hurricanes, and they still have 19 less points in the table. That's kind of where the Red Wings are sitting at the moment. And then jumping out to Dallas, the Stars hosted the Chicago Blackhawks, and in this game, the Blackhawks would beat the Stars 4-2. And after pulling off 3 goals in the second period, they went up 4-0, and then the Stars would score 2 in the third period. It just simply wouldn't be enough. With this win, the Blackhawks now have their 14th win of the season, and they are now sitting 4th in the Central Division as they trail the first place Carolina Hurricanes by 6 total points. Looking out to what's going on today, especially with primetime hockey, at 9 o'clock, the Edmonton Oilers are going to host the Ottawa Senators on ESPN+. And then also at the same time, the Colorado Avalanche will host the Los Angeles Kings on ESPN+. And then last but not least, taking you out to soccer just to give a glance into what's going on in that world. Of course, with yesterday, because half of the Champions League games were finished yesterday, they transitioned into Europa League. And going down the list, first Manchester United hosted AC Milan, and after both teams scored a goal in the second half, at the end of the first leg, the score is tied on a 1-1 aggregate, as the next game will be played in Milan, which will hopefully give Milan the advantage. And then Tottenham Hotspur hosted and were able to defeat Dynamo Zagreb 2-0 as their 2 goals came from their elite English striker Harry Kane. And then those are the big games to look out for. And with that said, checking out what's going on today as we transition to a very action-packed weekend. The only game I would say that's of utmost importance is in the French Ligue 1 at 3 o'clock. Stade Reims is going to host Lyon at 3 o'clock. Olympique Lyonnais is one of the top 3 teams in the Ligue 1 as they're fighting with PSG and Lille for the top spot in Ligue 1. A win here could temporarily put them ahead of Lille and PSG for the top spot, which would put pressure on Lille and PSG to win their next games. So that's the only game with serious title implications to look forward to today. But with that said, I want to thank everyone once again for listening to all 37 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well, and I will get back to you tomorrow on Saturday, March 13th, 2021. Once all of these exhibitions are finished. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with a new episode tomorrow. Peace out.